Hey everyone, welcome back. We know you're here because you want to keep your finger on the pulse of AI. You want those insights and you want them fast. Well, you've come to the right place because today we're doing a deep dive into, the March 28th edition of the AIDB newsletter.
Right on the money. And yeah, this newsletter, it's packed. We've got a lot to cover.
It is.
A lot of exciting stuff happening.
We do. We've got four big areas we're going to dig into today. First up, Google's dropped something they're calling their most intelligent AI model yet, Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Yep.
Then there's this platform, Flora AI, that's, from what we're seeing, it could really change the game for creative work.
Could be huge.
Big time.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get into something that's been a hot topic for a while now. Productivity versus precision when it comes to LLMs.
Always a good debate.
Always. And finally, we'll wrap things up with AI image generation. Things are moving so fast in that space, and it's really, really exciting.
Wild stuff, totally changing the landscape.
It is. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll break it all down, explain why it all matters, and hopefully leave you with some real aha moments.
Good stuff.
Exactly. So, should we jump right into Gemini 2.5 Pro?
Let's do it. Straight to Google's latest and greatest.
Okay. So Google dropped this new model, Gemini 2.5 Pro, just a couple days ago, March 25th, and they're calling it, as I said, their most intelligent AI model to date. It's still experimental, though. Codename Nebula.
Nebula, yeah. What really stands out to me is this whole idea of it being a thinking model. The newsletter dives into how it works. It actually reasons through problems step by step before giving an answer. That's pretty different, right? It's not just pattern matching. It's actually trying to understand and connect the dots.
So it's like it's actually thinking things through.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And that step-by-step reasoning, it's not just for this Pro model. It's across the whole Gemini 2.5 family.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just how it thinks, though, right? It's what it can think about.
Yeah.
And this model, it can handle text, audio, images, video, even whole repositories of code. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Very versatile. It's like they designed it to deal with, the real world where you've got all these different types of information coming at you at once.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the possibilities are, they're pretty huge.
I mean, just imagine an AI that can listen to you explain something, look at a diagram you've made, and read a document all at the same time and actually understand how it all fits together. That's powerful.
Exactly.
Okay, so another thing that blew me away, honestly, was the size of the context window. 1 million tokens. I mean, that's roughly 750,000 words. That's like the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy. And get this, they're planning to double that to 2 million tokens. I mean, that's just, what does that even mean in practical terms?
So think of it this way.
Yeah.
The context window, it's basically the AI's short-term memory. The bigger the window, the more it can hold in its mind at once.
Right.
So with 1 million tokens, it can... Remember, like a whole research paper, you could have a conversation that goes on for, hours, and it wouldn't lose track of what you talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
For things like summarizing really long documents or researching something where you need to remember tons of details, or even just having a more natural flowing conversation with an AI, that large context window, it changes everything.
So it's not just remembering what you said last, it's understanding the whole flow of the conversation, the entire context. That's impressive. Now, the newsletter also mentions a new level of performance.
Right.
They've done something to the core model and to how they train it that lets it outperform a lot of what's out there, even some really strong models. And they're doing it without having to, cheat during testing.
Right.
So that means they've made some pretty fundamental improvements.
It seems that way. I mean, you look at the benchmarks,
Yeah.
and it's clear they're onto something. For example, Gemini 2.5 Pro, it hit the top spot on the El Marino leaderboard.
And that's based on how actual people judge the models.
Exactly. It's like a blind taste test. People compare outputs from different models, and they pick the one they like better. And Gemini 2.5 Pro, it beat out some heavy hitters. O3 Mini, Claude 3.7 Sonnet, Grok 3, DeepSeek R1, and not by a little bit, by a lot, plus 39 ELO points.
Okay, so people like it, but how smart is it, really?
Good question. Well, on humanity's last exam, which is meant to test really high-level reasoning, it got 18.8%, and that's without using any external tools. It beat out O3 Mini and DeepSeek R1 there, too.
Interesting.
And it's not just general smarts, it's killing it in STEM fields, too. Amy 2025 for math. 86.7%. GPQA Diamond for Science, 84%.
Wow. And those are, remind me again, those are pretty tough tests.
Oh, yeah. That's like challenging high school level math. And
Yeah.
GPQA Diamond, that's complex science stuff, the kind of questions experts answer. And what's really impressive is that it got those scores in a single pass. No second chances, no extra thinking time.
But what about coding? The newsletter makes it sound like it's amazing at some coding tasks, but maybe not all of them.
Right. So it's really good at, like, editing existing code and doing what they call agentic coding, where it can write code to do things on its own. They even gave an example where it made a playable video game from just a single prompt.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's pretty wild. But then for general programming tasks, it was a bit behind Claude 3.7 Sonnet.
Why is that?
Well, it seems like it's really good at working with code that's already there, understanding it, changing it, and it's good at doing things autonomously with code. But maybe Claude 3.7 Sonnet, it just has a broader, deeper understanding of how to build things from scratch.
I see.
Different strengths,
Okay. So who can actually play with this new model? Can anyone use it yet?
Well, right now, it's available to people who subscribe to Gemini Advanced,
Which is?
the $20 a month plan.
Okay.
And they can access it through the Gemini app and through Google AI Studio. Developers and, companies, they can use it in AI Studio as well.
So when will it be more widely available?
Well, they're planning to integrate it into Vertex AI. That's their machine learning platform.
Okay.
So we should be hearing more about pricing for APIs, for using it in real-world applications, and about higher usage limits probably pretty soon. Plus, don't forget that context window expansion to 2 million tokens. That's coming too.
Right.
That's a big one.
Okay, so what's the big deal here? What can you actually do with this model that's so different?
Well, the newsletter talks about things like building visual web applications, creating more sophisticated agentic code applications, and transforming existing code bases. They also highlighted strength in complex reasoning, which makes it a good fit for academics, scientists, analysts, anyone who needs to really dig deep into complex information. And apparently, it's really fast too.
Makes sense given Google's resources, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this isn't happening in a vacuum. There are other powerful models out there from, companies like OpenAI, DeepSeek, Anthropic, xAI. It's a competitive landscape.
It is.
But what seems to set Gemini 2.5 Pro apart from what the newsletter says is this combination of really strong single pass performance, doing things right the first time without needing to try over and over, and its broad multimodal capabilities.
Right.
Not every model can do both of those things well.
Yeah, that's true.
And the early buzz seems pretty positive too. People on X are talking about it. The early reports are good. And of course, it helps when you have the CEOs of both Google DeepMind and Google itself out there promoting it,
Yeah.
showing off those demos like that playable dinosaur game.
Yeah.
That definitely gets people's attention.
So, to sum it up for our listeners, this Gemini 2.5 Pro, it's a pretty big deal, right?
It is. I mean, if you're someone who needs to, stay ahead of the curve in AI, this is definitely one to watch. This isn't just a small step forward. It's a pretty significant leap in terms of reasoning, understanding different types of information, and holding on to that context over long stretches of interaction.
Right.
This kind of power, it could change how whole industries work and how we all interact with AI, whether it's, helping just do complex research, creating amazing new content, or automating complicated tasks. That massive context window, that alone could be a game changer for how we use AI to handle information overload and manage those long, complex conversations.
Right.
And those benchmark results.
Yeah.
Not just numbers. They're proof that this thing is, well, it's the real deal.
Okay. So, moving on in our deep dive into this newsletter, let's talk about Flora AI.
Okay.
This one caught my eye because it's all about creativity and, well, it just sounds really cool. So it's an AI platform from a company called florafauna.ai, and their whole thing is transforming creative workflows.
Yeah, they're really trying to change how creatives work. And what's interesting is their approach. It's this infinite canvas idea combined with a really user-friendly node-based interface.
It's visual.
Very visual. The newsletter really stresses that they're not just trying to automate things.
Okay.
They want to give creative people more control, more power over how the AI actually works.
So what does that mean, infinite canvas?
Well, it's not like you just type in a prompt and hope for the best.
Right.
You actually build your creative process visually using these things called blocks.
Blocks.
Yeah, think of them like building blocks. Each block represents a different AI function, like generating text or creating an image or making a video, and you can drag and drop them, connect them, and build like a custom workflow. It's a really hands-on visual way to work with AI.
And it's not just one AI model powering it, right?
Nope. They've integrated a bunch of the top models. GPT-4 Mini, Claude 3, Google DeepMind's Gemini 2.0 Flash.
Why is that important?
Well, different models have different strengths.
Okay.
Some are great at, realistic images. Others excel at creative writing. This way, you can pick the best tool for the job.
Smart.
And then there's this new feature they're calling vibe creating.
Vibe creating.
Yeah. It lets you edit images using just natural language. Like imagine changing the background of a photo just by saying, hey, put me on a beach. There have been some cool demos of this on X, changing backgrounds, adding objects, even adjusting the mood of an image just by describing what you want.
That's crazy.
It is. Super user-friendly.
Okay. Now, a lot of creative work is collaborative, right?
Oh, yeah.
So does Flora handle that?
Yeah, they've got built-in tools for teams. Live editing, link sharing, commenting.
Nice. So you can really work together all in the same space, even with the AI involved.
Exactly. And they've got these things called styles, which lets you keep character designs consistent across different generations. And get this, you can even generate video directly within the platform. There was a post about it on X just yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
It is.
And what's really cool is that it's not just point and click. You can actually tweak the parameters, refine your prompts, really get specific with the results you want.
So it's not just a black box. You actually have control.
Exactly. Control and flexibility.
Yeah.
And they've been making a lot of updates too. Back on March 24th, they integrated Gemini 2.0, which apparently made the image editing faster and more precise. And vibe creating, that launched around March 20th. And you can even try it for free.
So what's the price tag on all of this?
Well, there's a free tier, but it's limited, of course.
Right.
And then the Pro plan starts at $6 a month with a credit system. Some of the newer features, like that natural language editing, those are free to try out right now.
Nice. So it's accessible.
Yeah, they want people to experiment with it. And the newsletter mentions a bunch of different uses. Visual design, like logo creation, content creation for writers, artists, videographers, you name it. And of course, as we talked about, anything that involves teams working together.
And what's the general vibe, so to speak? Are people excited about this?
Seems like it. People are definitely talking about it, especially creatives who are curious about how AI can fit into their work. And the founder, Weber Wang, he calls it a cursor for creatives.
Cursor for creatives. I like that.
Yeah. And what's important to remember is that this is still an open alpha. It's accessible through their website, and they're actively looking for feedback from people, from the creative community.
That's good.
Yeah, it's evolving. It's not a finished product.
So for our listeners, why should they care about this?
Well, if you're in any kind of creative field and you want to be on the cutting edge of things, Flora AI is definitely worth checking out. It's a really different way of working with AI.
It is.
More visual, more intuitive. And that infinite canvas idea, that node-based system, that could change how creative teams collaborate. And that natural language editing for images.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
It is. It is. Okay, let's move on to our third big topic from this newsletter. The whole debate around LLMs, and specifically this tension between productivity and precision.
Yeah, the classic push and pull.
Exactly. So on the one hand, we have LLMs making us more productive.
Absolutely. I mean, the newsletter even cites an example of like 30 to 50% productivity increases in software development just from using AI code generation.
Yeah.
It's not insignificant.
No, it's not.
And they're becoming increasingly valuable in real-time situations too. Processing information on the fly, making quick decisions. The newsletter specifically mentions Grok 3 as being particularly adept at that.
In what kind of situations?
Think like news analysis, customer support, anything where you need to respond quickly to changing information.
All right.
And this ties into the rise of what they're calling autonomous agents. These are AI systems powered by LLMs, and they're being used to handle more and more complex tasks like scheduling, customer service, things that used to require a lot of human involvement.
And they're predicting this will be a big trend this year.
Oh, yeah. And they even quote some business leaders from Reuters NXT who are anticipating, significant cost savings and operational improvements because of it.
So it's not just hype?
No, real-world implications.
Okay. And this productivity boost, it's not just for big companies, right?
No, definitely not.
Then the newsletter talks about how smaller, more efficient models are coming out, along with open source projects.
Exactly. It's becoming more accessible. So even small businesses, individuals, they can tap into this power.
That's great. And the newsletter even gives the example of like solo entrepreneurs using models like Anthropic's Claude to essentially run their entire business.
One-person enterprise powered by AI.
That's wild.
It is.
Yeah.
And it speaks to this bigger picture of LLMs becoming, like co-pilots, helping us do more, do it better, do it faster.
Okay, so that's the productivity side, but then there's the question of precision.
Right.
And the newsletter makes it very clear that while these LLMs are amazing at generating text, they're not perfect when it comes to accuracy.
Right.
Especially when it comes to things like fact-checking, reasoning through really long and complex documents, or dealing with highly specialized knowledge. They can stumble. So what are some of the key limitations here?
Well, one of the big things is that their performance can actually drop when you ask them to do multi-step reasoning, where you need to follow a chain of logic, or when they have to deal with really long pieces of text that require more than just pattern recognition. And then there's the issue of hallucinations.
Hallucinations.
Yeah, it was when the AI generates something that sounds plausible, but it's just plain wrong. And the newsletter cites studies showing that even the best LLMs only have a citation accuracy of around 72.7%. That means that almost 30% of the time, they're getting the facts wrong.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
Ah.
Especially when you think about how easily those errors can slip through unnoticed, particularly as the models get better at making things sound convincing.
Yeah.
And this is a big concern in fields where accuracy is crucial.
Like medicine, law, finance.
Exactly. The newsletter even brings up the incident with that Air Canada chatbot.
Oh, yeah, that was a mess.
It was.
Yeah.
And it really shows how even a small mistake in, say, customer service can have real-world consequences and damage trust. It's a reminder that even though these LLMs can be incredibly helpful, they're not infallible.
Right.
They need supervision, especially when they're interacting directly with people.
So is this just a matter of making these models bigger, giving them more data? Will that fix the problem?
Well, the newsletter suggests that it's not that simple.
Okay.
Even the biggest, most advanced models, they can still get things wrong. And those mistakes can be really hard to spot.
So what's the solution then?
Well, there's a lot of work being done to find that balance between productivity and precision. Some people argue that, LLMs are meant to be tools that help us, not replace us.
Oh.
They're supposed to enhance our abilities, not take over completely. So there's a focus on developing oversight mechanisms, ways to keep an eye on them. And there's a lot of work on fine-tuning, training them to be more accurate in specific domains.
Right.
And then there are these hybrid approaches.
Like?
Well, the newsletter mentions Grok 3's deep search feature and Claude 3.7 Sonnet's thinking mode.
Okay.
These are both designed to improve the model's reasoning abilities and their understanding of context.
Makes sense.
But there are others who believe that we need more fundamental changes, to the very design of these models to make them truly reliable for those critical applications.
Right. And the newsletter also suggests that maybe the future is about specialization.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Using smaller, more focused models for tasks where precision is absolutely essential, and keeping the bigger, more general-purpose models for boosting productivity in areas where it's not quite so life or death.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right tool for the right job.
Exactly. So for our listeners, understanding this debate, this tension between productivity and precision, it's crucial for understanding the current state of AI and where it's headed.
Totally agree.
These LLMs have enormous potential to change how we work and create, but it's important to be aware of their limitations too. And those examples in the newsletter, they really highlight what's at stake.
They do.
Okay, let's move on to our final topic, AI image generation.
All right, into the visual world.
This is one area where things are just moving so fast and, well, honestly, some of the stuff they're doing is just mind-blowing. So what are some of the big recent developments the newsletter highlights?
Well, OpenAI has been busy.
Always.
They've upgraded their GPT-4o model, the one behind ChatGPT and Sora, to include native image generation.
Oh, wow. So you can just tell it what you want and it'll make a picture.
Pretty much. And apparently, the results are amazing. High resolution, photorealistic, really detailed. They say it can even handle complex scenes like comic strips and diagrams. Some people are saying it's better than Midjourney and Ideogram.
Really?
That's a bold claim. It is. And it's not just OpenAI. Stability AI has been improving their Stable Diffusion 3.5 large model. Better image quality, fewer restrictions. And Google, while they've also jumped into the game with their Gemini 2.0 Flash model, it can now do native image generation, and it's supposed to be much better at keeping characters consistent and avoiding those weird glitches that sometimes pop up.
It's interesting how all these different companies are all making these huge leaps forward at the same time. What's driving that?
I think it's a combination of things. Better models, more data, and new techniques for controlling the generation process. Plus, there's a lot of competition in this space, which always pushes innovation. And the newsletter mentions this other tool, Flux AI, from a company called Black Forest Labs. They're pushing the boundaries in terms of fidelity, how realistic the images look, and how closely they match what the user asks for.
It's like they're reading your mind.
Almost. And all of this is having a huge impact on creative industries.
I bet.
I mean, think about it. In entertainment, they're using it to speed up the creation of concept art and game assets. In advertising, they're using it for rapid prototyping. And artists, they're using it to explore new styles, get inspiration, even collaborate with the AI as a creative partner.
Yeah, it's like a whole new set of tools.
And they're only getting better. The newsletter mentions a development at MIT. They've created this thing called the Hybrid Autoregressive Transformer, or HART.
All right.
And it can generate high-quality images 9 times faster than anything else out there. 9 times. That's huge.
It is.
I mean, it could open the door for real-time creative applications, things that were just impossible before.
Wow. But, of course, there are concerns about all this, right?
Right.
I mean, some people are worried that AI will replace artists, that it'll lead to all art looking the same.
Right. Those are valid concerns.
Yeah. What's the newsletter's take on all this?
Well, they acknowledge the concerns,
Okay.
but they also highlight the incredible potential of AI to actually boost human creativity. The idea is that AI is a tool, not a replacement.
Right.
It's like a paintbrush, but instead of paint, you're using words.
I like that.
And it's lowering the barriers to entry.
Yeah, anyone can use it.
Exactly. And they point out that platforms like Midjourney can still produce really unique and surprising outputs, while models like GPT-4o offer more control and precision. So there's this whole spectrum of creative possibilities opening up. They call it a golden age of experimentation.
It's a good way to put it.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just about static images anymore. People are working on multimodal applications, integrating text, audio, even spatial data to create richer, more complex outputs. And there's even talk of using AI to create immersive experiences like, recreating dreams in AR or VR.
That's getting really futuristic.
It is. And the potential for education is huge too.
Yeah.
Imagine using AI to create real-time visual illustrations of complex concepts, to really bring learning to life.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
But there are still challenges, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, the uncanny valley is still a thing.
Right.
It's hard to create truly realistic human figures that don't look, a little creepy.
Yeah.
And then there are all the legal questions around AI and copyright. Who owns the rights to AI-generated art, and how do we protect the rights of the artists whose work is used to train these models?
Right. It's a whole new world.
It is. And the public is still figuring it all out. You see a mix of reactions on platforms like X. Some people are amazed, some are skeptical, some are even a little scared. But the general trend seems to be towards a future where humans and AI will work together in creative ways, where these tools become more intuitive and responsive to human input. And with the way things are advancing in terms of efficiency and scalability, we might see these capabilities expanding beyond images, to video, audio, who knows what else.
So for our listeners, AI image generation, it's more than just a cool new technology.
It is.
It's a fundamental shift in how we think about creativity. And the advancements are happening so fast that, well, it's hard to predict where we'll be even a year from now.
Exciting times.
They are. Okay, that was a lot. So just to quickly recap what we covered in our deep dive into this March 28th edition of the AIDB newsletter, we talked about Google's new super smart model, Gemini 2.5 Pro. We explored Flora AI, that innovative platform for creative work. We dug into the ongoing debate about productivity versus precision in LLMs. And we finished with a look at the incredible world of AI image generation.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did.
And we hope we've given you, a good understanding of these key developments without getting too lost in the weeds.
And as always, we want to leave you with something to think about.
Always.
So, As AI continues to evolve in all these different areas, how do you see these advancements impacting your own work? How you learn, how you express your creativity? What new possibilities do you see? What new challenges do you think might arise as these technologies become more and more integrated into our lives?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is. And we'll be here to keep exploring those questions with you as the AI landscape continues to change.
Until next time.
Until next time.